Coach, obviously a lot of speculation and talk about quarterback competition. How do you think it's gone through these, practices?
I knew you'd be the first question
Right.
out the gate, man.
Right.
I knew it. I love it. You know what? They've done a good job. They've done a good job, KJ, AJ. It's a fiery competition, but they're working together, which is good. They're competing against each other, but they understand that it's for the good of the team. Neither one perfect, but there's been improvement every single day. I think I told you when we started this out the last time I was up here that I purposely in the spring put them in bad situations to see if their tool belt that Coach Mitch and myself coach them up on can get them out of that. Okay, I think they both have improved on being pre-snap adjusters. AJ had the little bit advantage early because he already knew the offense and knew the terminology and knew the system. KJ was learning it. But they both have become better pre-snap adjusters, okay? AJ, from the time I met him over a year ago, athletic ability has really improved. And KJ, as you guys know, already has that. So, I want them to be great pre-snap adjusters with the ability to have some post-snap adjustability in them. And they've done a good job of that, To say there's a leader in the clubhouse, I won't say that. Just like, we said we're going to talk about it in August, but there are some days where AJ has an edge. There are some days where KJ has an edge. One thing KJ has to do is play overly consistent. Something that he has to work on is he'll make 10 great throws and then miss one, and that's something we worked on. He's overly improved that. It's a technique fundamental thing that Coach Mitch and him have worked on. And one thing AJ has to improve on is just his, growing and playing clean football. He'll play really, really, really smart football, and then all of a sudden, like, what was that, man? Type of deal. So they're both still learning, and they will be learning forever. But it's been a really good competition. I feel really good about both of them. Right now, I can sit here and say that we're going to play the one. They're both playing good ball. And if we had to play tonight, we'd play a guy who played better ball than the other guy, if that makes sense. Not a guy who we're going to play him because the other guy had a horrible spring or something like that, if that makes any sense at all. So I'm very happy where they're at. We got miles to go, but we have time to get there.
I assume you're putting them on separate teams, and for the red-white, how far will this go in determining, I guess this is probably as game-like as
Yeah, every single thing that they do, and I think I said that before, everything they do is an evaluation. How they walk into the meetings, how they prepare themselves for the meeting, how they answer the questions in the meetings, obviously how their individual periods of practice look, okay, to then the 7-on-7 group stuff, to then the team stuff, and then the live stuff. Now, I know I made mention to it that the black jerseys might come off. That was never a thing. Coach gave me a little bit of, don't say that. But, you get to a thud situation, you get to an 11-on-11 situation. That's one thing. Then the next step is the scrimmages that we've had. It's still live scrimmages. They're not live, but it's still live scrimmages. And Coach Mitch and myself coach them like that. Like, hey, if you didn't have the black jersey on here, that one would have hurt because you didn't check the protection type thing, So the spring game on Saturday is another day, another great opportunity for them to be evaluated, for them to compete against each other. They will be on separate teams. Coach Larry, our receiver coach, calls one side. Coach Mitch, our quarterback coach, calls the other side. And I get to hang out and evaluate on Saturday. So it'll be a great day for evaluation, but so is how they walk into the meeting this afternoon at 1:00. That's kind of how we add pressure to that situation as much as possible.
From a big picture standpoint, where would you say you are in terms of what you want to install and how much you have, and then execution part, how much they have executed what you want?
Yeah, it's hard to put a percentage on what we install, but we installed more than I thought we'd be able to, which I was very happy about. Week 1, 2, we had week 1, which was true day 1, 2, 3 install. Then we had the spring break, then we came back and we kind of reviewed day 1, 2, 3 install, added 4 install. And then that next week, which would have been officially week 3, still some install stuff. And that week 4, I threw a lot of stuff at him. I threw a whole bunch of stuff at him. We went deep into the advanced side of the playbook, and I actually went into some practice with a bad attitude, like these guys are going to be running all over the place. And they did a great job of allowing us to continue to install. So we got a lot more in than I thought we would be able to get in. That's a compliment to the coaches, a compliment to the kids for doing it. But, we got a whole bunch in. And to me, the goal this spring for me was to get as much install in as possible, which I think we did. And also fact-finding. I think I mentioned that before, it was a fact-finding spring. So what can this receiving core do? What can this tight end core do? Which running backs are going to step up? Who on this team is going to make a mistake and bounce back, and who on this team is going to make a mistake and go in the tank for a couple plays. And to me, that was the biggest thing this spring for me to find out is who we are. You had a little bit of advantage with Sutton Smith, who I've known for 3 years, Jamar Hawkins, who you've known, Meat, who we've known, AJ, who I've known, but all these other guys are brand new, to me at least. You watch them on film, that's great, but I want to see them have a couple bad plays, and how do they bounce back? Have a couple good plays, and do they keep that level, How are they look play one at practice, what you guys had the ability to see, to how they look period 24 of practice. Are they still playing with that same energy and same type of effort, So to me, it was a fact-finding spring, and I think I feel really confident I know who they are right now. Hopefully they know who I am right now, okay? But again, until you line up Saturdays and fall, till the light truly go on and the heat really goes on in the kitchen, all right, that's when you find out who you truly have. But, kind of like you were alluding to, like scrimmages, who steps up on scrimmage day, But at the same time, who has that same type of scrimmage mentality day on tomorrow's practice, which is a helmets practice. That's kind of what we're looking for, and I always tell them I watch and I evaluate a heck of a lot more than maybe it comes off sometimes, but that's what I was looking for, and I feel very confident about understanding them a heck of a lot more than I did 13 practices ago.
On the OTB, TTB front, how would you say that's gone? Have they gotten more turnover from you than you want to give?
Well, yeah, they got at least one, so that's way more than I wanted to give up. No, you know what? The conscious effort is there. You see it. So the ball hasn't been on the ground a whole bunch. Okay, we had a goal line period the other day where the ball was on the ground once, maybe a second time. I don't care. That maybe is a yes. It's on the ground, which is unacceptable. Okay, but I think in holding on to the ball, there was a conscious effort from everybody on the team. And that's why, when you guys are at practice, you hear us say OTB, how many times as we do, because we want them to think about that when they break into the open. We want them to think about that when they're going down a little bit, okay? So I think on that front, it was way better. I'm not upset at it. It's never going to be perfect. It needs to be, but it's never going to be. There were times, though, with the quarterbacks, I think we got to be smarter with the ball and be able to live to see a 2nd and 10 than try and force it in there on first down. And to me, that's a big thing. Coach Silfield does a great job with at practice of putting us in situations. There is a time at the end of the game on 4th and 20 where, sure, you got to squeeze that ball in there. You got to throw it up in the air and hope we make a play. If that gets picked, so be it. Things happen. But on 1st and 10 and you're out of the pocket and you try and throw back across your body to the over naked drag, that's a bad football play. And that's the stuff we need to avoid in that room. It hasn't happened a whole bunch, but if it's happened once, it's happened too many times.
When Mitch was in here with us, he said the quarterbacks at that point overall were 65% or so. Any update on that?
Plus 70 now. They're plus 70. I'm going off AJ, KJ right now. They're plus 70 on their. That includes 7-on-7 and team periods, scrimmage periods, of course, and any 7-on-7 or 11-on-11. We keep them separate, so don't quote me on exact. Like there's a 7-on-7 percentage that we do, and then there's a team percentage that we do. But when you combine, I think AJ's sitting. Don't quote me. I think AJ's sitting 73. KJ's sitting right around 71.5 or something like that. So they're doing a good job of taking completions, which is something we talk about. Obviously, taking completions. But they're not perfect with it, but they've done a good job of that.
Coach, has Courtney Crutchfield stepped up quite a bit this spring? It seems like he was somebody maybe at the first spring they were wanting him to step up. Has he stepped up as much as you've seen?
He really has. He really has. He's one of the guys that I'm really pleased with. He was a guy that he admittedly said could have been a lot better than what he was last year. Came in from his day one of spring ball to where he is right now. He has put himself in a position to earn playing time, and that's what we tell them. The quarterback position, we're going to play one guy. O-line, we're going to probably play the top 5 and have 6, 7, 8 ready to go. But when you start getting a running back and receiver and tight end, I always tell them it's your job to prove to us as coaches that you deserve to be on the field. And once you do that, then it's our job to put you on the field in certain situations. So he's a guy who's earned my trust sitting here today, April 22nd, maybe, April 22nd, that I feel confident that if we had a game tonight, he would be in the top 6 receivers and on the field, and I feel very confident him in there. Because he's a guy that actually stepped up in some of the scrimmages too. Like his performance in the scrimmages were very good, and that's what you look for. You look for a guy who does a really good job in individual, a better job when we get to unit stuff, and then a tremendous job when we get to team stuff. And he's a guy that's kind of stepped his game up when the heat's turned on.
The other day when Coach Roberts was in here, I asked him about the overall depth on the defense. I'll ask you the same thing on offense. How do you feel about it at this time?
I feel good. I feel about 8 in the offensive line, maybe a 9th in the offensive line. I feel pretty good about. Running back world, I feel good about 3.5, maybe 4 guys there. Some of the young running backs. And I made mention I hate the term young because that's just an excuse to make mistakes, which you can't do. But class-wise, young guys, But I feel good about 3.5 in the running back room, probably about 3.5 in the tight end room. And then we're about 6, 7 deep in the receiver room. So I feel really good about them. I feel very confident that these 2 quarterbacks, we can put them in a game. We can put a winning game plan around them. So I feel good about the depth of it. Okay. Again, we're nowhere near ready to play a football game right now, but we don't have to be. Okay. We got to be ready come end of August. So we got another 2 more practices. We got a whole summer of OTAs, and we got a whole fall camp to get ourselves into that position. But I kind of like where they're at right now.
What have you seen from the tackles so far this spring? How have they maybe improved? What do they still need to work on? Because you have a pretty good foundation on the inside, but both tackles maybe are, I guess, on the left side, not so much SEC experience there.
Yeah, and to me, there's one thing I've always told you can't coach, and that's experience. The best thing about the tackles this spring is they got to go against Quincy. And I don't know 100% yet, but he's probably one of the top guys that we're going to go against this year. And you go against him every single day, especially in certain periods when he knows it's a pass period or he knows it's time to get that his tail up in the air and rush off that edge. It only made us better. So another 2 guys there, 3 guys there. We include the young guys there. Who have improved on a daily basis, and being able to go against them and go against Steven Souls, another one of our DNs who's a true pass rush guy, only made us better. So I feel confident with those guys playing those positions right now.
When we're out there, we haven't really seen too much passing down the field in 11-on-11 drills. When you do that tempo or 2 minutes, a lot of short passing. How pleased are you maybe with the downfield passing game from your quarterbacks right now?
Yeah, I'm telling you, you guys are probably there till period 7, 8, 11, 12. You're there. Yeah, so we normally that's when we usually pick up on the team stuff. So I think we're doing a good job of that. I think we're doing a good job of throwing downfield. Sometimes the coverages dictate can we throw it downfield or not. But I think our quarterbacks have done a good job of finding the one-on-one situations when they can. Antonio Jordan has done a tremendous job of making plays when he's one-on-one. Chris Marshall has shown the ability to stretch the field. Ish and Jamari in the slot position shown a tremendous job of being able to stretch the field. So I'm happy with the ability to be able to do that. I think we have some guys that can threaten downfield and force them to cover vertically as much as horizontally.
And you mentioned on the opposite end, the horizontal. It seems like what we've seen, the horizontal game is a key part of your offense. What is it about maybe screens, bubbles, stuff like that you feel like maybe can open up that downfield passing game or whatever else might be in your offense?
Yeah, a lot of it. A lot of things go into it. I could talk for hours as to the philosophy of that, but I tell them, and this is a fact-finding spring. So, one of the philosophies in the offense is to put your top players in open space. Okay, 13 practices ago, I couldn't tell you who our top players were. So our job is to put them in open space and see if they can make what they can do with the ball at that point. I don't care what goes on. We're going to play against some good defensive lines. We're going to play against some good pass rush guys. We're going to play against some defensive coordinators. I don't care what level or conference you're in. Defenses are going to pressure you. They're going to bring blitzes. Okay, a couple of things that slow down rushes and slow down blitzes is a good screen game. Okay, having the ability to get Sutton Smith and getting Braylon and getting Cam in open space, getting Ish and getting Jamari in open space, getting Chris in open space is the screen game. Getting our tight ends in open space is the screen game. So that's something we really focused on this spring. Something I've always been focused on in the system that we run. So yes, that is a big part of it, and we can put guys in open space and let them go to work.
You mentioned 3 running backs there. I'm guessing is Parker the half?
No, I don't want to say who. It's a lot. I think Parker's done a tremendous job. He was banged up a little bit early in spring, and he came back. We had this past Saturday was not a scrimmage, but it was as much live as the NC2A allows you to do before it gets tagged to scrimmage. And he was able to make some plays in that we had to go indoors. I think that was this past Saturday, right? Yeah, this past Saturday we had to go indoors. And he had himself a really good day there. So he's done a good job. Batten has done a tremendous job. Batten is he falls into the Sutton Smith category where we're going to be able to move him places. And then T.J. Hodges, the freshman, man, he has gotten so many reps this spring that, if you ask me who, I don't want to say who the most improved is, all that type of stuff, but he is a guy that from day one to where he is now, you can see a different player in him. And maybe it's a confidence thing. You get a first-year kid coming in to a practice situation. I mean, keep in mind those guys should still be in high school, His problem was at some point during spring ball when you start thinking, when you leave high school early. But he's done a tremendous job. So when I say half, that kind of fits all those guys. Sutton Smith done a great job for us. Big Braylon has done a tremendous job. Another guy from last year who admittedly said he might not have been in the best shape he's ever been in last year to what he looks like right now. He's still a big back. And at one point, don't get too skinny, But he's done a really good job when the Cam Settles really has stepped up to be a true running back. You say Bray's a bigger back. You say Sutton's a scat back. They can both do some other things. But Cam Settles is true. I feel confident putting him in space. I feel confident putting him inside the tackles. I feel confident him in the protection game, the running back protection game. So that half is kind of a combination of all those young guys. And the thing you keep in mind with Jasper still got 4 years of football left. Batten still got 4 years of football left. TJ got 5 years of football left. So, there's some guys with a lot of football left to play in that room too.
Obviously, your offense throws to the back a lot more than what we've seen in recent years here. I'm wondering how proficient, how good of a receiving back Braylon has been for you.
Yeah, you know what? Hope this doesn't come across the wrong way, but better than I thought. Better than I thought. He's done a good job of catching the ball, and a big term we use in the offense is fast break. So you catch the ball at 3 yards, and your first step is downfield. That's what we consider a fast break. We run a fast break circuit. You guys probably have seen that a couple times when you were at practice of how we can catch the ball. In old school, you'd say get north-south. Old school, you'd say get vertical. Now with kids nowadays, you got to have cooler terms than that. So we use the term fast break, which is just catching your first step is gaining 2 yards, 2.5 yards real life. So he's done a great job of that and done a good job coming out of the backfield. Do I trust him to go out and run a true option route and make him number one? I probably would rather put Sutton in that situation than him. But if we run a swing route and the coverage takes us to him, he's been very good catching that ball. We run a UAR check down world. I feel very good in that situation. So he surprised me a bit to answer your question, yeah.
Seems like Coach Roberts kind of indicated that he's making 2 pretty even defenses in terms of splitting it up. Is that how you plan to do it in terms of the format for the red-white? And also, do you guys look at maybe matchups, like this guy's maybe a 1, we want to match him up with a 1? Is that
Yeah, so the way Coach Silfield does it is we kind of take, obviously quarterback world. AJ and KJ are on different teams. Cade and Bray are on different teams. So that's kind of how we did it. Sutton and Braden are on different teams. And then, trying to think, don't quote me on it at all, but the next two running backs are on. So we're trying to separate to be as even as humanly possible too. So basically how it worked is we kind of did offensively. We handed it in to coach. He made any changes he felt he needed to make changes to. He decided which defense that Coach Ron picked and which offense that we picked, who was on those teams together. Then he split the coaches in half, and Coach Silfield really made the final decision on it all. But that's what it is. We're trying to get it to be two even teams, not the one defense versus a two offense and a two offense. Because I'll be honest with you, offensively, I'm not in that mode to say these are the ones, these are the twos. Like I said, there's guys who I feel have earned the right. If we play tonight, there's guys that have earned the right to be on the field tonight, and there's guys that are still developing themselves to get to that point. So we don't have a true 1, 2, 3 on the offensive side, but we try to keep it as even as possible, make it a fair, fun game. And it's great. I love doing it that way because you get into so much offense versus defense in spring, So those teams that coach has always done, you separate the teams, the War on the Hill teams, keeps a camaraderie together, and now we split teams here. So, you're going to see me celebrate with some guys on our team on defense, which deep down it might hurt a little bit, but, I'm still on that team. So it's good for us to be able to root for each other and continue to bring the camaraderie together.
Coach, somewhat along those lines, you mentioned that two of your assistants are going to be kind of calling the plays for each side. Is it going to be the same thing on defense? We didn't ask Coach Roberts yesterday.
I don't know, and I don't want to speak for Coach Roberts. We do it that way offensively, for a couple of reasons, but it also gives Coach Larry and Coach Mitch an opportunity to call a game, and call some plays. Jokingly, I was going to tell y'all that we just don't want teams to see that we're running a triple option this year, so we're doing it. But no, it is good to see them go out and call plays and put together a little bit of a plan. No secrets. It's a spring game, so we ain't showing a whole lot, but we're going to put guys in spaces to be evaluated and put guys in spaces to make plays and be able to overly evaluate. This is not a spring game where we play and then we don't watch the film all. We're going to watch the film. We're going to grade the film. We're going to break it down. We're going to sit down and watch the film with the players on Monday, and go from there. So.
And with you being in more kind of an evaluating role, are you going to be like up in the box? Are you going to be on the field?
No, I'm going to stay on the field. I don't know if I have the headset on, but I'm going to stay on the field. We had the headset on in practice, because I'm talking to the quarterbacks in the C2P the whole time. None of the other coaches have the headsets on in practice, so they'll have the ability to C2P, which is a coach-to-player communication in the headset. They'll have the ability to do that. And get the plays in that way, keep it the same system that we have of how we get plays in from the coaches. But I'll be down the field, probably hanging around with Hank Hendricks, who, obviously won't be in uniform either.
You bring up Hank Hendricks there. I guess he's been at practice and been doing as much as he's allowed to do. How nice is that? Is that unique? Have you ever had something?
It's unique because he lives closer to the facility than AJ, KJ, Braden, and Cade. So he comes over, as within the rules of the NCAA, he comes over and he's at the practices and he's there and he can see it. He can hear the play call. He's standing in the back running the plays on air, so you'll see him back there in his stance and give the fake clap. And I have him kind of point to where we're looking and blah blah blah. And it's great for him so that come summertime when he's a full go, he can hop in, take some reps, and join the battle, And in fall camp, he's ready to go. He's not starting from scratch. He understands, at least on paper, and he can answer the questions as to what his reads are now.
And last one for me. I know you're focused on your offense, but you brought up, your tackles going up against Quincy every day. Is there anybody on the defensive side that has stood out and is like, man, this guy's a problem for my guys? Like he's
Quincy.
making plays.
Quincy's a problem. Quincy's a problem, man. He was a problem in the beginning of the season last year too, and I was at the other place, man. No, and I hope this doesn't come across the wrong way. I know a lot of guys by their numbers when they're out there, but I think in general, Oki at the D tackle position, he's showed up. He's made some plays. I mentioned the Souls kid at the other defensive end spot. He's a guy you got to have a hat on him. You don't want to put him on the two-surface side. You want to get a tight end in front of him, chip him a little bit, make sure the running back is aware of who he is, because with him and Quincy on those sides, they can cause some problems. The young guy, Danny Beal, I say young, he's 300 and a lot of pounds. He's hard to move. I don't care what age he is. Linebackers, everybody knows Shaw. 25's had a really good spring. He's shown up a bunch. A couple of DBs, number 17, he has a nose for the ball. The ball finds him. Unfortunately, as the offense coordinator and in the quarterback room, I don't like when the ball finds him, but the ball finds him. And to me that's a big deal. So, they've done a good job, and I think it was a really good spring in general of the competition. Of what Coach Ron shows defensively to be able to develop and coach specifically the quarterbacks off of what they're seeing, how they're seeing it, why they would go places. Like I said, I'd never sit there as an offensive coordinator the day before practice and tell the quarterbacks, all right, Coach Ron's going to be in this front, he's going to bring this blitz, and he's going to drop that defensive end, so on play 4 of period 8, I want you to throw the ball to the X receiver. Okay? That would not help them. That would not make them a better football player. So I tell them, here's a play, here's your read, here's your tool belt of what you can go to if you happen to see something. Go ahead. Go make some mistakes and let's be able to coach off it. Or go make a decision, have a reason why you're making that decision. Now we can coach you off it. Now you're developing yourself, okay? Hopefully come Saturdays in the fall, I can tell you, this is what the defense coordinator is going to be in. This is the blitz he's going to bring. This is the blitz he's going to bring. This is the covers are going to be in. So when I call this play on 3rd and 7, that X receiver is going to be screaming. That's the hope of it. But in practice, here's your tool belt, go to work. Go make some mistakes and let's coach.
The answer to this question just might be a flat no, but does anything meaningful change between a lefty and a righty? At quarterback, is there a world where you can maybe flip the tackles?
Well, when I'm trying to show KJ something, I look completely unathletic doing it. I can tell you that. No, seriously. No, but yes. As a horrible answer for you. No, but yes. There's certain times rolling out of the pocket. When you have all righties, your mindset is I want to run that play from the left hash. But if it's KJ in the game, you maybe make his life easier. I'm going to only call that play from the right hash. It's more so. I talk about fact finding. It's what can they do. Okay, then I'll put him on that situation. So I have no issues with KJ rolling to his right and making the throw. Sometimes he's better going that way because he's really focused on getting his shoulders turned and getting his body square off it. So no, not really. But there are certain plays that especially if you get closer to the goal line where you got to maybe get your head around real quick, that are better going one way for KJ than the righties that we got.
And you mentioned Courtney is maybe in that top 6 right now. Is that what is the ideal receiver rotation number wise?
To answer your question, 6, but I'm going to stick true to my word. If 9 guys show us that they have the ability to play, then it's my job as coordinator and our job as an offensive staff to find ways to keep fresh legs and play them all. So, but I would say 6 is probably realistic, because there's going to be 1 or 2 that probably don't come off the field, unless certain situations or they need one, But I would say in utopia, which is the perfect world, I would say 6 is kind of that magic number that as a receiver you want to earn the trust of Coach Smith and myself and Coach Silfield, of course, to be in that top 6.
Game-like as possible for this scrimmage?
Yeah.
And all that stuff?
Yeah, so in the other scrimmages, you guys, were you at the other scrimmages for the full time? Or?
I'd love to have been at the other scrimmage.
Okay. I'm sorry, that's how much I pay. That's how much I pay attention to what's going around on the outside. The other scrimmage was kind of like put it on the 25-yard line and play football as much as humanly possible, and then if that drive stalled or if that drive scored a touchdown, put it on the other 25 and go play football the other way. And then every now and then, coach would throw a 2-minute drill in there, a live 2-minute drill, or we started out last Saturday in a short, 6 short yardage plays. Let's bang heads for 6 plays and go from there. This is more so a true scrimmage. So if there is a turnover, which hopefully there isn't, but if there's a turnover and white team would have the ball in the plus 25, then they start to drive from the plus 25, and it's a true play game type deal where coach is at.
What about the special teams? You gonna kick off?
That's probably, I don't know if coach has another interview coming up. No. I don't know 100%. I know like if it's field goal, because we talked about that. If it's field goal, he'll have it set to when the first field goal kickers out to the second field goal kickers out, that type of thing. But I can't 100% answer that question. I know what it's been in the past, but I don't know where coach's head is, and I'm not gonna put any words out there that he's gonna make a decision on.
Anything like steaks for the winners, cereal for the losers, any of that kind of stuff playing into it?
Oh, there's plenty of bragging rights. We don't need to do anything like that. There's going to be plenty of bragging rights in the. I always joke because I think the hardest thing when you do this is when let's say the red team has an interception, does the red offense get excited, or does the red team offense get mad because the offense just did something bad? So that's always fun to watch. But I think bragging rights in the. Even amongst the coaching staff, like when Coach showed the coaching staff, I think it was, might have been this morning's meeting, what the teams were and where the coaches were and who they were. You could see the coaches already start talking trash to each other. And once that goes out to the players, again, I'm not putting anything in coach's mouth, but probably this afternoon, if not tomorrow before practice, and, those guys all start running their mouths to each other, in a good way.
You said it's going to be pretty vanilla. Does that apply to the pressures, or will there be pressures? You don't know how much?
That's up to Coach Ron, what he wants to do, but there's no, Coach doesn't have any rules that you can't do this or can't do that. But, to me, even in the scrimmages, so Tuesdays and Thursdays in spring ball is where I throw a lot at the offense. Offensive players, a lot of new install, a lot of the new shifts, a lot of the new motions, a lot of the new plays. Saturday scrimmage-wise, true evaluation, I'd try in spring ball not to get too wordy, too deep into the playbook, because I want them to 100% know where they're going and watch them play fast, as opposed to, we just installed something Saturday morning, and now you expect me to know it in the scrimmage Saturday afternoon, To me, being an evaluation thing, that's really the reason why it's day 1, 2, 3, 4 install more than anything.
He asked you about the tackles, but O-line altogether, how they coalesce, what have you made of how they
I think, I think it's another one that the improvement on a day-to-day basis has continued to show. The new guys learning goo. Malachi has known the offense, so, it's been good for him, but everybody else is new to the offense, new to hearing Coach Myers and Coach Johnson, new to hearing, all the different fronts and looks and stuff we're seeing from Coach Ron. So I think they've done a good job of communicating, which is the most important thing. Early in spring, I thought it was something I was concerned about because we were in a certain protection. The running backs thought we were in a different protection, and to me, the communication back and forth, it all falls on the quarterback to make sure we're all on the same page. But I thought that improved on a daily basis, which if you would have asked me heading into spring break, what needs to improve the most, that was it. And I think the last, whatever that makes it, 9, 10 practices, has really shown a lot of improvement on that side of it.
We appreciate you.
I appreciate you guys.